Arizona Basketball 2019 season preview, brought to you by Trident Grill, starts right now.
It's a different Arizona basketball team.
I think we have a unique combination of new players.
The Wildcats not only having to replace 5 starters, but having to do so with a recruiting effort hampered by the college basketball corruption scandal. But former McDonald's All-American Chase Jeter is now eligible.
I prepared for it. I've been waiting for it.
And heralded freshman combo guard Brandon Williams will call McHale Center home.
So it was just a long process from committing here to decommitting and then committing again.
And a combination of returnees and grad transfers are eager to exceed expectations and help the Wildcats defend their Pac-12 regular season and tournament titles. We'll break it down next on Arizona Basketball 2019 Season Preview.
And thank you for joining us. I'm Sports Director Jason Barr.
And I'm Pat Paris. For the first time in 7 years, Arizona basketball is entering the season unranked.
Yeah, and it's not a Wildcat team anyone predicts to reach the Final Four or even win the Pac-12. Expectations are not what they've been, at least for a Sean Miller team.
It's up to us to be better than maybe people on the outside predict us to be.
This year's Wildcat team doesn't have a player on a preseason award watch list. They're not in the AP Top 25, and no one is expecting any nets to be cut down come next March.
There's going to be rankings and outside noise, but I mean, when it comes down to it, we just got to, work as hard as you can every day.
The Wildcats lost their top 6 players from last year's team, including #1 overall draft pick DeAndre Ayton. While restocking the talent pool hasn't been a problem in the past, Sean Miller's recruiting effort was held back by the current college basketball corruption scandal. Wearing the colors this year, returnees like Dylan Smith, who's set to see significantly more playing time.
Obviously, there's more opportunity with all the guys leaving, and my role is probably going to increase.
There are one-and-done grad transfers like big man Ryan Luther and point guard Justin Coleman, as well as former McDonald's All-American Chase Jeter, a center who began his career at Duke.
I've never been more confident in my abilities than I am right now, so I'm excited to finally get on the court and kind of show my stuff.
And there is a heralded freshman on this year's team. He's combo guard Brandon Williams.
Yeah, most people might agree a high school senior is allowed to change their mind. Well, that's what Williams did twice. The Wildcats are glad, though, he'll be lacing up his basketball shoes at McHale.
Before Brandon Williams became a Wildcat, he almost didn't. Yes, he committed to Arizona in June of 2017, but this past March, he decommitted. By early May, though, the 5-star guard recommitted.
I just had to look myself in the mirror and just determine where I was going to be happy the most in an environment where I can get pushed every day to my limit. I feel like Coach Miller did a good job at that, and the guys here, they have a really good tradition and a really good culture, and I want to follow that.
But it's Williams' tweet announcing his reversal that has other top recruits now following him to Arizona. The 6'2 guard from Crespi High School in L.A. showing it's okay to come to Tucson despite the FBI probe and subsequent federal trials.
That's the real reason why I committed here, just let people know that, Arizona's okay, we're in good hands, but, all that's in the past, and we're just going to keep moving forward.
A top 30 player nationally, Williams brings plenty of athleticism to the Wildcats. He's able to play the point, but he can really score the basketball from the 2 spot.
I can be on the court with anybody. I don't look at myself as a guy who has to bring the ball up the court or a guy who has to be the 2. I just like to classify myself as not a point guard, but as a basketball player, really.
Williams can play basketball at a very high level, and he can also talk a big game, something his teammates already know, and Pac-12 opponents will soon find out.
I like to battle, I like to compete, I like to talk trash, and I think that's going to rise my game.
Looking forward to seeing him play this season. Well, as we talked about, there continues to be a little cloud hovering over Arizona basketball's program, and it doesn't appear, Jason, to be going away anytime soon.
Yeah, we're talking about the college basketball corruption scandal. The Arizona Board of Regents did meet on Thursday. They discussed recent court revelations in which 3 men were found guilty of wired fraud conspiracy. They had arranged to funnel funds to Brian Bowen and other 5-star recruits without the university's knowledge. One of those men is Christian Dawkins. ESPN reports that he had 13 phone conversations with a phone number belonging to Sean Miller. Meanwhile, former assistant coach Book Richardson is charged with soliciting bribes as an agent of a federally funded organization. This could all spell a lot of trouble for the Arizona basketball program down the road.
Stay tuned. That's what we're all going to be doing.
We have to.
Well, we're going to continue with a lot more for you here on our special. In just a few moments, we're talking about the Wildcat defense, what Sean Miller has to say about a major part of the game plan that hasn't been up to par in recent seasons.
But first, a trivia question. DeAndre Ayton was drafted #1 overall by the Phoenix Suns. Who is the only other Wildcat to be drafted by Phoenix? We'll tell you the answer in just a few minutes.
Arizona Basketball 2019 season preview, brought to you by Trident Grill right now.
All right, let's take a look now at the season schedule. We'll just mention a couple of the big games for the Wildcats.
Of course, the season actually tips off for real against Houston Baptist. That's on the 7th of November. The Maui Invitational starts on November 19th. Arizona plays Iowa State and could face Gonzaga, Duke, and Xavier. Some heavy hitters there. Then on December 2nd, the Wildcats play at Connecticut and at Alabama on the 9th. We'll talk more about that in just a moment.
Moving into January, the Pac-12 opener, the Wildcats will host Colorado on the 3rd. Also Oregon could be a favorite in the Pac-12 on the 17th. Then the Wildcats will go to UCLA. That'll be fun on January 26th. And then head up to Tempe to face rival ASU. That's going to be on the 31st.
And as we move into February and then into March, Arizona will face Oregon again on March 2nd. And about 1 week later, the Wildcats will host Arizona State on the 9th. The Pac-12 championships will again be in Las Vegas starting on March 13th. When Arizona visits Alabama in December, it will be a homecoming for a pair of Wildcats.
Yeah, we're talking about Dylan Smith and Justin Coleman. They are friends from the Yellowhammer State.
He was always good. He was one of the best players in Alabama in high school. I actually looked up to him.
How long have you guys known each other?
I've been knowing Dylan for almost 6-7 years now. Yeah, and we actually communicate a lot back home. You know, that was my guy. You know, so once he moved from Mobile to Birmingham, we actually became close friends. And so actually, his influence on me coming here was a big deal.
Coleman will be this year's starting point guard. He's a grad transfer who will use his final year of eligibility at Arizona.
And we're going to check in now on that trivia question. You know, DeAndre Ayton drafted #1 overall by the Phoenix Suns. Who is the only other Wildcat to be drafted by Phoenix? The answer, Anthony Cook, selected 24th overall by the Suns. That was back in 1989.
A while ago. Well, it was a role once filled by Nick Johnson, then by Rondé Hollis Jefferson.
We're talking about a defensive stopper and someone who can guard the opposing team's best perimeter player, a role the Wildcats have lacked the last 2 seasons.
At one point, we were one of the top 5 defensive teams in the country, and I think in last year we slipped into maybe the 80s. So forget who's going to be that player. I think our quest as a coaching staff and as a program is to really work and improve and be the best defensive team we can be.
The Arizona basketball season preview continues now. What Sean Miller says Arizona will rely on more this year than any other year.
But first, how about a second trivia question for you? Again involving DeAndre Ayton, though, who holds the record for most points by a Wildcat freshman. Whose record did he break? We'll give you that answer in just a few minutes.
Arizona Basketball 2019 season preview, brought to you by Trident Grill right now.
All right, Pat, I took high school French, so I say Desjardins.
And that's what they say in French-speaking Canada, too,
right,
with
Montreal,
all the hockey players, yeah. Right? Well, it's actually Desjardins, as in Jake Desjardins.
Right.
Yeah.
This year, we're going to be hearing a lot more of his name.
I think there's a lot of ways to pronounce it, but that's just the most simple way that I go with.
Jake Desjardins entered the Arizona program 2 years ago as a walk-on. You can tell by his jersey number, it's in the 50s.
Jake, he embodies all the qualities that we want to have as a culture, on and off the court. Somebody who cares a lot about his teammates and winning.
But Desjardins played sparingly. Despite a strong work ethic, he only had his number called in just 10 games over the past 2 years.
Comes to work every day, so to speak, whether it be in practice, preparation for the upcoming team.
And so this past offseason, Sean Miller rewarded Desjardins' efforts by making him a scholarship player.
I had no idea. I mean, obviously, I think that's every walk-on's goal, is to eventually earn a scholarship, but I never expected it to come. I never asked for it, and it kind of came and shocked me.
Being able to watch somebody earn it over a 2-year period, being selfless, working hard, and impacting both of the teams that he's been on, I think that's the right thing to do.
The best part about it was telling my mom, and she just started crying, so that was a cool experience.
Desjardins appeared as a scholarship player for the first time in Tuesday night's exhibition win over Western New Mexico, making all 3 of his field goals.
I thought Jake did a really good job coming in the game as well.
Why are you still number 55? Why don't you have a normal number?
You know, we call it Nation here, Walk-On Nation. Those are some of my brothers, best friends of all time. Even if the opportunity did come, I'm going to stay 55. You know, that's what I came here for, is my brothers, walk-ons, and that's who I, want to represent.
This year, no one should mistake Desjardins' status with the team, or for that matter, the pronunciation of his name.
I never correct anyone. I just, everyone has their own perspective on it, so I let him have it.
Yeah, good stuff there.
It is. It's hard not to root for a player like that, right?
For sure. Yeah. Not a guy who's heavily recruited, but makes a name for himself at Arizona. Well, for the past 2 seasons, the Wildcats started 2 7-footers.
Not this year. Sean Miller says this year's Wildcats will depend more on outside shooting.
We're going to rely more on the 3-point shot this year. That doesn't mean that it's either make or break, but we're going to shoot and depend more on 3-point shooting than we have maybe since I've been here.
One player who figures to be a big part of the Wildcats' 3-point shooting is sophomore Brandon Randolph. He made all 5 from behind the arc in Arizona's exhibition win over Western New Mexico, scoring a game-high 20 points.
All right, that trivia question, did you get the answer? DeAndre Ayton holds the record for the most points by a Wildcat freshman. Whose record did he break? Well, Jared Bayless, who scored 592 points in 2007-2008.
And when the Wildcats begin their season Wednesday against Houston Baptist, they will be doing so without sophomore Ira Lee.
Lee has been suspended 1 game for what the university is calling a code of conduct violation. The 20-year-old was arrested in August for several DUI charges, including super extreme DUI. The incident happened a day after his grandmother committed suicide.
Me, I'm just accepting my consequences, and I'm going forward. That's my main thing, going forward.
He's a great teammate and a great kid. He's had a lot of tough things happen to him in a very short period of time, and I think our support is unwavering.
All right, it may take a few things to come together for the Wildcats to have a big season this year.
Exactly right. Coming up, we're going to go through the keys to success, brought to you by Trident Grill. But first, the Wildcats are unranked in the preseason AP Top 25 poll. When was the last time they began the season unranked? We're going to have the answer for you when we continue.
The Arizona Basketball 2019 season preview, brought to you by Trident Grill right now.
Well, didn't have a good season in 2012, but this Wildcat group can exceed expectations.
All right, so we're going to go through 3 keys to success, brought to you by Trident Grill, for the Wildcats to again make the NCAA tournament. Key number 1, tremendous improvement from the returnees. We're referring to the 4 sophomores and Dylan Smith, who's going to be playing his 2nd season with the Wildcats. These were not impact players last year. Those guys are going to have to play big minutes. They're going to have to make a big contribution.
Key number 2, and an important one, we talked about it earlier in the show. The Wildcats are going to need to find a defensive stopper. They have to emerge, like Emmanuel Acott, maybe the likely candidate for this role. Sean Miller loves defense, and this can earn someone a whole lot of extra minutes of playing time.
And now key number 3, the front court. Got to stay healthy, got to stay out of foul trouble. It's been a while since the Wildcats haven't had a lot of size. The Cats are thin in the front court already with Chase Jeter's injury that caused him to miss that preseason game against Western New Mexico.
And now to that trivia question answer. I alluded to the 2012 team not being a very good one. Well, that was the last time the Wildcats began the season unranked in the AP Top 25 poll.
Yeah, I think this team is going to fare better than that one. They had that first round NIT loss. I think they had a lot of off the court problems. That was the Josiah Turner year.
This still has some talent, just unproven talent in a lot of ways.
Yeah, a lot of character, I think, on this year's team as well. All right, so it all starts Wednesday against Houston Baptist at McHale Center, a team that finished, Pat, 6-25 last year, including 2-16 in the Southland Conference.
Yeah, they were 1-16 on the road. So we'll have to see how the Wildcats fare. And really, Jason, it's about, coming together as a team. And maybe this first game will help begin the foundation, building that foundation.
Yeah, this can be a gritty team that can play good defense and squeeze out a couple of upset wins, and who knows?
Never know. They're probably still one of the top 5 teams in the Pac-12.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, for Pat Paris, I'm Sports Director Jason Barr. Thank you very much for joining us, and we're going to see you at McHale Center.